I think there's no debating that out of all the Tyler the Creator albums out there, Cherry Bomb is the one that had fans and critics the most divided. A 6.4 average user rating on Metacritic, a 69 average critic score. Nice. Not necessarily bad by any means, but his lowest rated album on there by both of these measurements. But this album came out in 2015, a year which it is not currently. So I'm going to be talking about how this album has aged for me 7 years later, and if it's better at all than its aggregated reputation as Tyler the Creator's worst album might lead you to believe. This is CDTV with legs once again. Let me try that again. This is CDTV with legs once again, and let's get right into it.
How many leaders in the house? Well, can somebody bring the mirrors out? I'm getting lonely.
First, we have to talk about what specifically had people divided about this album. What was it about Cherry Bomb that had people so mixed on it? And it's funny that I used that word because I read through a bunch of reviews for the album, and by far the most common complaint that I saw, the biggest complaint that most people had, was about the mixing of the vocals on the album. Exclaim, for example, said in their review, "There are moments that will leave listeners wondering why he bothered recording vocals at all if they're going to be this quiet," with particular dislike, shockingly, for the tracks Pilot and Cherry Bomb. Spin also commented on this, calling Tyler's vocal presence muted, saying it was buried behind instrumentation or pitch shifted to an unrecognizable level. User reviews are similarly critical of this aspect. Just go to Metacritic or albumoftheyear.org, go to the user reviews, Control F, type in mixing, and have fun scrolling. Pitchfork, 6.7 out of 10. Exclaim, 5 out of 10. AV Club with a C+. Double XL, 8 out of 10. Spin, 6 out of 10. Fantano, 3 out of 10. Complex, 7 out of 10. Slant Magazine, 6 out of 10. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but most were in the mixed feelings middle. The majority of the reviews that I read mentioned liking the softer, jazzier sounding tracks, but not liking so much how they were mixed in with the more aggressive sounding or juvenile tracks. Double XL and Complex embraced the chaotic energy the most, loving the variety, but AV Club and Exclaim felt that that was the album's biggest downfall. The most common favourite tracks between reviews were Death Camp, Find Your Wings, The Brown Stains of Darkest Latifah Part 6 to 12 Remix, and after saying that title I forgot the last one. Smuckers. Of course, it was Smuckers. Least favourites in general were Run and the title track. But that is what other people thought about the album in 2015 when it dropped. The real question that is on everyone's mind watching this video is, what does CDTVProductions think of it now?
I'm the new pilot in this bitch, and I ain't bring no extra baggage for this trip.
Now we get to the fun part, because I'm going to be comparing my original thoughts on Cherry Bomb, which can be found in my video from 2017, ranking Tyler's albums from worst to best, to my current day thoughts on it right now. Considering I ranked it dead last in that video, my opinions were mostly negative. But I actually feel like it's the only Tyler project that I've come out of disliking it quite a lot. I was not a fan of the super loud, distorted tracks, which will be shocking to absolutely no one familiar with my 2017 content and opinions. And you guys already know, no matter who uses it, I hate distortion on songs. And while I felt like the production was given a lot more focus than the rapping from Tyler on this project, I still didn't really like the production all that much. Also didn't like the mixing. My top tracks at the time were Smuckers, Run, which absolutely no one else seems to like. Little spoiler, it's not one of my favourite tracks anymore, but I still kind of like the song. I get the fact that it's kind of pointless because it's just a minute long, but I enjoy how it sounds. The Brown Stains and Find Your Wings. Since then, I've revisited the album every few months or so, and I've got to say, every single time that I come back to Cherry Bomb, there's at least one song, or even just one moment from a certain song, that grows on me just a bit more. Every single time. For example, in my discography ranking video, I mentioned Death Camp somewhat negatively, but now That has to be one of my top 3 tracks on the album. I think it's just the right amount of aggressive and loud, with Tyler still being somewhat audible in the mix. Like, you can still hear what he's saying, which is good too, because that song has some of my favorite quotable lines from the album.
Laddie-daddy, I'm going harder than coming out the closet to conservative Christian fathers.
Blow My Load would be better if the synths didn't drown out Tyler for a lot of the track. Like, out of all the songs on the album, why does that one need to have quiet mixing on the vocals? It makes sense for the louder, aggressive tracks, but why on this like soft and sensual track are you getting overwhelmed by the synths and you just can't hear Tyler? But as a whole, that one has grown on me somewhat. That was the point I was trying to make there. Pilot, surprisingly, has grown on me a little bit because it has such a killer drum pattern and it's very intense. I do like the intensity of the beat, but I still don't fully enjoy that one with how invisible Tyler's performance feels. The second half of it is very nice though. Speaking of that, the title track Cherry Bomb is still a completely offensive assault on my ears, and to this day I hate the first half of it. But it also kind of gets better in the second half, and I appreciate that even more now. Just when those synths come into the beat and it warms up a little bit. I like the project quite a bit more now compared to my first review when I didn't like it at all, but it still is a fairly conflicting album for me. If numbers help you conceptualize it, it's went from a 3 out of 10 in 2017 to a 5.9 out of 10 now. I still do have to agree with my original stance on the mixing on this project. Even if it's intentionally more quiet or inaudible, I still think it's a bit of a problem, and it very much feels like a transitional project for Tyler. The middle part of Two Seater, for example, feels like a precursor to Flower Boy. I don't think that album could really exist without Tyler taking the step towards it on this one, but this project setting up Tyler's other future incredible albums doesn't necessarily make this one incredible. And before we finish up, one major thing that I disagree with from my original review of the album, I think the production on Cherry Bomb is pretty damn great. Listening to the instrumental version of this album is an amazing experience. What I'm really not a fan of is how Tyler's vocals were combined with these instrumentals, but the actual instrumentation itself sounds really nice. Like, I feel like Tyler knew exactly where he wanted to go with the production, but the lyrics, the concept of the album, and the themes all feel a lot more half-baked than they do on any other Tyler album, because usually the sort of conceptual part of it is his strong point. I don't really feel that as much on Cherry Bomb. This whole Find Your Wings theme, for example, that goes on throughout the album, it feels very loosely incorporated and almost like an afterthought. So Cherry Bomb will likely never become an album that I have at the very top of my Tyler rankings, but many more listens to the project has definitely given me more appreciation to certain aspects of it, even if I do still feel like it's a fairly mixed bag. The top tracks for me in 2022 are Death Camp, Find Your Wings, Smuckers, and what was the other one? I'm running through the track list in my head right now. Death Camp, The Brownstains, Smuckers, and Find Your Wings. And the worst ones for me now are Cherry Bomb and Keep the O's. So those are my updated thoughts on Cherry Bomb by Tyler the Creator 7 years later, or compared to my original review of it 5 years later. So now I'm gonna ask you, watching this right now, Nathan, what did you think of Cherry Bomb at the time, and what do you think of it now? Has it grown on you, and what are your top tracks and worst tracks from the album? And hey, don't forget to give the instrumental version a chance sometime. You might just like it if the vocal mixing is one of the main issues for you. And you can click right here on the screen to watch my last video on hip hop's lost media, and shout out to the Patreon Mafia on my right, your left, for their support. Especially my biggest supporters, and those are Agir, Big Daddy Foe, Griffin Upchurch, I Am Region, and Ryan Shadow 507.